trouble paying attention, really controlling impulsive behaviors, and being overly active. All are symptoms that so commonly get tested and bucketed into this diagnosis of ADHD. Now, having talked with hundreds of parents about this diagnosis and the natural ways to really help it, there is still a lot of confusion on if a child actually has ADHD and what are the causes and how can we really help them without medications. In this video, we will look at ADHD through a lens different than just a diagnosis, really unpacking it to see the symptoms and then how the brain and nervous system really influence these systems of the body that bring about the attention, the focus, and the impulse control struggles. Now, going back to a main root cause will help truly make sense of it and really find the answers to address the difficulties. My name is Dr. Eric. I am one of the chiropractors here at ADHD Chiropractic. We focus on pediatrics, prenatal, and whole family wellness in the Middleton and Madison area. Now, this video is for parents who are looking for medication, drug-free options. They may have heard from a teacher, from a school administrator, or a counselor that medications is really the only or the best option, but it's not really congruent with their beliefs. Additionally, many dads, and sometimes moms too, attribute ADHD symptoms as genetic. The thing I hear all the time is I struggled with this, so it makes sense that my child does too. Now, this video is designed to look at ADHD through a different lens. ADHD isn't just a struggle in the brain. It's the nervous system input to the brain. And ADHD isn't just hyperactivity and can turn into a huge energy drain as we get older, especially later in elementary and teenage young adulthood years. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty of things, please share this video with other moms and parents who you know that need to hear this message. We are on a mission to really change this trajectory of our kids' health. And before getting into the science, this really brings up my story as a childhood. I was diagnosed as a kid with ADHD. I had troubles paying attention, focusing in the classroom, and sitting still. And this really impacted my learning. And I went down that typical route that so many people hear about. I was put on medications to treat the ADHD. The thing is my parents did what they felt was best based on the information that they were given by my pediatrician. My parents didn't know of anything else. And as I got into college, I really started to realize the medications weren't addressing actually the root cause of why I was struggling, but I didn't know what that was. But they were just merely treating a symptom, which led me to really discover this whole new wide world and why I do what I do now. ADHD isn't just a busy, overwhelmed brain. The body can be overwhelming the brain too. Now, causing the central nervous system to be in this fight and flight mode. The question though that most parents have is where does this stress from the body, our internal environment, really come from? Now, the quick answer is from 4 key stressors that are often overlooked. Now, first is high stress and high risk pregnancy, which puts mom and baby into this sympathetic dominant state that shifts more of them into this fight and flight protective state. Number 2 is birth interventions, such as forceps or vacuum extraction or C-section where they're pulling, or even induction places a physical component of stress. Most commonly, what we see is in the upper part of the neck and like the shoulder area, which overwhelms our neuromotor development. Number 3 is a fussy or colicky infant or reflux or constipation struggles that then continue to overwhelm our autonomic nervous system that we talk about. And then number 4 is frequent ear infections or respiratory infections before the age of 3 years old, along with antibiotics, which further addressing the stress of that autonomic nervous system and shifting it into that fight and flight state. Now, when the nervous system gets overtaxed and overworked with these 4 stressors that I just talked about, the signals to it sends to the brain are full on protective fight and flight response in every area of the brain. The cerebellum, which is the motor centers, which causes kids to not be able to sit still. The midbrain, which is our limbic system, specifically what we call our hippocampus, which affects focus and attention. And then the prefrontal cortex regions that affect socialization, situational awareness, and the ability to self-calm and self-regulate. ADHD isn't just, again, hyperactivity. An overwhelmed brain and body can actually cause brain fog, focus, and attention issues if not addressed, and can be a huge energy drain for our kids. This is actually quite common to see with ADHD, especially if they have struggled with all 4 of those causes that I just talked about above, to be more wound up and tired out instead of hyperactive. This happens for these main reasons. When the system is in this sympathetic dominance for a long time, this high energy, low sleep, constant stress, it eventually burns out, causing demotivation, tiredness, grumpiness, and those all settle in. And yes, genetics can influence these behaviors, but not nearly as much as we think. The nervous system, the vagus nerve, and its development play a much greater role with these kids. And studies by Bruce Lipton, who's a PhD biologist who studies epigenetics, he says it is estimated that no more than 15% of our genetic code determines our outcomes. This means that 85% of it is up to us, influenced by our internal and our external environment. And this is incredibly encouraging, meaning that even though dad may struggle with attention, focus issues, it doesn't mean that their kids do as well. Now, putting this all together, kids struggling with ADHD most commonly have a significantly imbalanced and dysfunctional nervous system. This condition is known as what we call dysautonomia, and the most common presentation of this is really an overactive and excessive response within our sympathetic, our fight and flight gas pedal part of that nervous system, and thus an underactive and understimulated parasympathetic, our brake pedal part of the nervous system. Now, to end this video, first, please ask any questions or leave a comment down below or send us a direct message. Second, please share this video with other parents, other family members, Facebook groups who need to hear this message. Third, our work as pediatric chiropractors focuses on addressing the subluxation, the stress and the vagus nerve, or that dysautonomic nervous system, challenges directly. Getting that sympathetic nervous system unstuck, unraveled, and in turn activating and stimulating our parasympathetic part of that nervous system, that brake pedal part, that side of the nervous system, with each and every adjustment. Now, while each individual adjustment is able to stimulate and activate the nervous system in a certain way, it really takes time and repetition to make long-lasting changes within the brain and the autonomic nervous system. Now, most parents and caregivers begin to report, positive changes in the first few weeks for our younger kiddos, and over a matter of few months for our older kids. And many others actually experience almost this instantaneous change, just as I did really when I really started to get under specific chiropractic care. The term for this change via time and repetition is what we call neuroplasticity, and it is a natural and normal part of brain development in kids, and also an extremely important in the recovery from traumatic birth and brain injuries. Now, we first start by taking an in-depth, personalized case history on each child, and then the most exciting really aspect of our work is that we can directly measure the child's subluxation patterns and dysautonomia via really an incredible piece of technology that we use called the insight scans. Now, this is the most essential step in helping a child with ADHD find a drug-free care options, as it allows us to really narrow down on the foundational root cause elements discussed throughout this whole entire video. Now, for more information, I have attached this article to share. So either click on the link in the caption to read more, or click the link in our bio if you're watching this on Instagram, so we can start to get down to the root cause and start to address this, stress that's on your child's nervous system, and really start to find some drug-free options for your family.